Hello everyone and welcome to this Ask the Expert live Q&A, which is going out live on Facebook, Instagram and YouTube, and it will also be going out as the Bucket Lister podcast as well. So I've got the expert Dave on with me this evening. That is the expert, it's not me. So if you are listening, watching, please do say hello in the comments. It's great to know who is watching. Hi, Ben. Ben's watching on Instagram at the minute. Now, the idea of our live Q&A is so people can ask us questions that are related to adventure travel, whether that be one of our trips, whether that be what kit you need to take on your trip, whether that be should I do this trip or that trip. That is the idea of the live Q&A session. So hopefully we will have a few questions to answer off in a minute. But if you do put your questions into the comments wherever you are listening, watching, and then we will go through and answer them. So we've got greetings from the Karakoram. We've got somebody listening in New York. Hello to Candice. Hello to Andrea Shaw. So we've got a few people watching. Like, so yeah, so that's kind of the idea of this session. And we're also going to talk a little bit about what's been going on over the since our last Q&A, which was over a month ago now. So we've had our first group head out to Everest Base Camp. They reached base camp yesterday. Yeah. Took off on time. Weather's been perfect throughout. So yeah, brilliant news. We've just come back from a weekend we've just come back from a weekend in Birmingham at the National Outdoor Expo, which was a brilliant weekend. Was great to see so many of our customers and future customers, so that was lovely to see. And that's why I am now speaking like this with a sore throat, because I spent so much time speaking to people over the weekend. So thanks for all those who came along. So we've got a question here, which is, what trip would you recommend to a 60-year-old lady? Not because you're a lady, but we're going on the age here. So yeah, do you want to answer that one?
It depends how adventurous you want to be. We've certainly have got some trips which are called the best of trips, which are more leisurely and scenic and traveling about with a mixture of walking and driving and seeing countryside and places like Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, beautiful places. And if you want something that's just tiny bit more rigorous than that, I would recommend, I have done before, it's a Sahara trek, which is roughly over 8 days total. That's with flying out and flying back. A very varied trip. People don't really understand because they think it's all going to be sand, and it certainly isn't. It's ancient riverbeds and wonderful geology, and certainly a cultural experience as well. And that trip, I mean, lots of our older clients have actually started with that. And it's also true that I have to say, I take that trip, and every year I think the male-female ratio is mainly female. It seems to be a trip that women really enjoy. Certainly, when they come out, they certainly bond very closely together and have a great time. So there's two ways really. One is the best of type of trips. You'll see there's lots of those. Keith will talk more about that. But something a little bit more challenging, more walking, I would say the Sahara for sure.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Sahara is a great introductory trip. I had a 79-year-old lady on that who hadn't done a great deal. The lovely thing about the Sahara trek is that there are camels that carry all the bags. And obviously everyone gets to have a free camel ride
at some point.
But obviously as we start to decant the food in the water that we're carrying, extra camels become available. So, there is always the emergency camel. But, so if you were getting a bit tired, you can jump on a camel. Things like the Cappadocia trip, that's a great one. And then, like Dave said, the best of range. So we've got, if you want to go on safari, we've got the best Tanzanian safari. We've got Vietnam, Cambodia. We've got Sri Lanka. We've got Indonesia. There's always little bits of adventure on those trips, but they're not Costa Rica. You're heading out to Costa Rica next month, Jordan. So there is always little bits of adventure on those trips, but they're not kind of multi-day trekking trips. So, you might do a day of walking, and then a couple of days later, you might do a city tour on bike, and then you might do a zip lining experience. But it's not kind of multi-day trekking like some of our trips. And we just spoke about Cappadocia there, and Andrea's asked a question of, do we have any concerns currently around Istanbul for the upcoming trip to Cappadocia? And my answer to that one is, if you were going tomorrow, then yes, I probably would have some concerns around that. But obviously our next trip isn't until May. So, I'm kind of hoping that will all be under control, and we're keeping a close eye on it anyway. But generally, the same thing happened in Peru. There was a couple of weeks of protests, and then it all quietened down. So we're just going to keep an eye on it and see what happens regarding
and follow the Foreign Office advice as well. Take advice always.
Yeah. And then how much walking is there on the Sahara trip, Dave?
You're going to be walking, it depends if you want it in hours or kilometers, about 14 or 15 kilometers a day. We're talking about, it's not totally flat terrain, but mainly flat terrain. And it is varied as well, because it's 80% of it's a stony desert, but we walk down an ancient riverbed for half a day at least. And there's a little bit of sand dune walking when we actually get to camp, just to get into our camp. But we're not actually walking over sand dunes and sand all the time.
And it's only really the first day, isn't it, where we go up over.
Yes.
There's an hour of climb in the morning on the first day.
Escarpment, but actually we get to the top and then we sit and wait for quite a while, because we want the camels to get in front of us.
Yeah. Someone's just asked, when is the best time to go to Everest Base Camp? Well, we got asked this a lot over the weekend, didn't we, actually? So any trekking in Nepal has 2 seasons. So you have the spring season from kind of now until May, and then you have the autumn season from the end of September through till November, end of November. We're actually pushing our autumn season a little bit later, because recently we've seen that actually the weather can still be quite wet. Monsoon season is our summer in Nepal. And what we've noticed over the last few years is that seems to be creeping more and more a little bit later. Now, there are various other things to consider with regards to this, and what is your purpose of going to Everest Base Camp. If you want to go and see Everest Base Camp as a base camp, in terms of the city that it is when all the climbers are there climbing Everest, then you're really going to want to go in the spring season, because the majority of people most people, very few people climb Everest in the autumn. Most people are climbing Everest in the spring. And generally the weather window for them to do it appears around the middle-ish of May. That's when the jet streams drop to allow people to actually go to those altitudes. So any time sort of between April and middle of May, if you want to see base camp in all of its glory, then that is the time you want to be there. Obviously, that tends to be the busiest time. So if you want to be going and trekking it when it's quiet, and actually you want to go and see Everest and be in the mountains, and you're not so bothered about seeing the base camp, then the shoulder periods or in the autumn season then is the best time for you to head out. And then that would be the same as if you were looking at, you know, the Three Passes or Gokyo Lake or whatever. Someone's commented there saying that they're on EBC with us in October.
Well, lovely.
Like I say, we've just had a group summit. I get to Everest Base Camp yesterday. They had a great result. We lost one through. She had a respiratory infection at Dingboche and couldn't continue, unfortunately. But she's all back in well and everything now. But the rest of the team all got up to base camp. So that's good news on that one. Okay, so like I said, if you've got any questions, please do add them into the comments and we will answer them for you. While we're just waiting to see and get some more questions in, because I think we've covered off everything so far, I just want to say about our 2027 trips. So they launched last Friday together with our new brochure. So you can get onto the website and download a copy of the new brochure if you haven't already done so. And like I say, our 2027 dates are now live. We're a little bit late launching them this year. In the past, we've always launched them in January, but we've actually pushed that out to March this year. So I know there was a lot of people kind of, you know, when are you launching the 2027 date? And the reason why the reason why we like to look to allow people to book so far ahead is because obviously, you know, I think we were the first people that allowed people to do monthly payment plans on their trips. So obviously it's okay saying, well, you do monthly payment plans, but like, you know, the whole point of it is to bring the amounts down to,
you need the months.
You need the months.
Yes.
So obviously putting the trips out to the end of 2027 now, you've got lots of months now to split that in between. So that is the reason why we launched them so far ahead. And I know, you know, we've got, you know, I spoke to so many customers over the weekend at the National Outdoor Show who were saying, you know, I need to think about 2027 now because 2025 booked out, 2026 booked out. Now I can think about 2027 in those. But of course, then they start asking the questions of, you know, this is Tom Lloyd, this is, but like, you know, when are you launching the new trips for 2027?
Yeah,
the brand new ones. So they will be coming soon. That's all I'm going to say there. But, you know, do check out the website. And, you know, like I say, there are going to be some new trips coming in the coming months. But let's just get these 2027 new dates out there first. So someone's just asked here, what are your footwear recommendations for the best of Costa Rica?
Footwear? Well, first of all, you're going to need something like sliders or flip-flops for the evening because it's going to be hot and warm and humid. During the day, though, you could get away with trainers mainly, but there is some walking through the nature reserve. And for that, I think you do need a pair of maybe what we call approach shoes, of heavy, strong trainers for that, really. That's what I'm going to be taking. I shan't be taking boots, walking boots, but I will be taking something that's rugged, not some lightweight trainers, but some heavyweight that's got a bit of go in them, because there will be some walking. But in the evening, obviously, you just want to put sandals on, won't you? And flip-flops or whatever you like to wear when it's really hot. So
an approach shoe, kind of a stronger kind of walking shoe, and then a pair of sandals as well. So someone's just asked, what was your favourite stop or tea house along the route of Everest Base Camp?
Oh, well, I don't. I think the cafe. Is it 4417? I can't remember.
4410.
4410. 4410. The cafe in Dingboche. Absolutely welcoming. Free Wi-Fi if you buy enough coffee. The coffee is. I'm a coffee boy. Is really
coffee snob, I'd say.
A snob. It's really gorgeous, and you are made so welcome by the owner. And it's a very comfortable place. It's as people say, it's got a great groove to it, whatever that means. But it is a lovely place, really, and it's like a little haven that afternoon after quite a bit of trekking. And it can be a bit grey and a bit hard sometimes. They haven't got it like that now, but it can be. And you go in there, and it's just peace and lovely and warm and welcoming. Fire's going. It's just lovely. Oh, and there's a film playing as well, which you can watch for free. And
that's it. You spend 2 nights there, don't you?
You
do. You generally go there on the first day, and then the second day, then when you do your acclimatization walk,
that's right.
You're normally back for lunch, and then you've got a free afternoon.
And that's the time to get in there and just recharge, ready for the next day.
Well, and recharge your phones as well.
Yeah, everything,
because they let you recharge your phones for free as well if you buy a coffee. So mine, I don't know. Probably I've probably got to say the Irish bar, hadn't I?
I wondered when we were going to get there.
But yeah, I mean, Cafe 8848 in Namche, like a really nice place as well. Good cake. They also introduced the bangers in mash first, so that was a really funny story. So we were on our way back from Everest Base Camp, and I remember this because I was on Instagram and I followed Cafe 8848, and like they put up this picture of bangers in mash with onion gravy. And when you've just been on that menu for that amount of time, the standard Everest menu, and I just saw this picture of like home cooked luxury
sausage and mash,
and was like, I need that in my life. So I sent them a message and said, I'm coming back through Namche on whatever day it was. Can you make sure you have it in the is it going to be on the menu? And they're like, yeah, it's going to be on the menu. Like, so I was like, right, there's 4 of us. We're literally craving sausage and mash. And like, I know the guy at the tea house in Namche really well because I've stayed there so many times now. And I remember we got there at lunchtime and he came round to take the order, and I felt really, really bad because I was like, I'm going to go and eat somewhere else today. Like, I'll pop back later. Like, so anyway, we went down and had the bangers and mash, and it was amazing. And then we went back to up to the tea house, and he went, Keith, my friend, he said, did you enjoy your sausage and mash? And I said, yeah, it was lovely. He went, I own Cafe 8848 as well, so I've still had your money. So I didn't need to feel bad about it at all. So another couple of questions coming in. Andrea Shaw's obviously been speaking to Tom Lloyd because she's asked about the Antarctica trip. It's coming. Yeah. Lindsay's asked about the Botswana and the Belize trip, and then Andrea's also asked about the Mexico trip. So in May, June, and July, we will be launching. May will either be Belize and Guatemala or Mexico. June is going to be launching Botswana, and then July will be launching the other one, whether it's Belize or Mexico. So that's when those 3 are going to come out. So one will go in May, one will go in June, one will go in July. So yeah, that's the story with those ones. And then somebody else has asked a question. I did just see another question. I thought, Kelly's just asked, what trousers would you recommend for summit night on Kilimanjaro? I have my trekking trousers, thermal, plus my waterproof hard shell for the top. Wondering if this will be enough. Well, that's what I wear. So, I mean, depending on your trekking trousers, because I have a lighter weight pair of trekking trousers, and I have a thick pair of trekking trousers, and I wear my thicker pair for summit night. So I'll have my thermals on underneath, then I'll have my thick trekking trousers, and then I'll have my waterproofs over the top of that with my gaiters over the top of those. So that's how I would then layer that up. And then obviously as the sun comes up and you start to make your way back down, the chances are you will then lose your waterproof layer but and keep on the other 2 layers until you get back down to the first camp or where you started from your base camp that night. So that's what I would wear, and you should be fine with that. Obviously, you are moving all the time. It's generally when it's summit night, when you stand around, that's the bit you get cold. So you don't tend to stop for very long for that reason, really. So what you've suggested there, as long as those trekking trousers aren't too thin, you should be spot on with that.
Yeah.
Elliot Hill, do you need any trainee guides? No, we don't, Elliot. Thank you very much for asking.
Well, we need good ones. Sorry, Elliot. Only joking.
With his wink face there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Elliot, please get in touch. We'll get you on a selection process. It would be
initiation more like.
Yeah. What do you fancy, Elliot? Trip to Nepal? I know you know that one quite well now. So okay, so if anyone else has any questions, then please do add them into the comments. And we keep scrolling through everything and answering them away.
Yeah,
just trying to think what we haven't got any questions, Dave. We need
we need questions, don't we?
We need questions. What's the one thing that you always take on a trip?
I'm going to say hand gel.
There we go.
Always hand gel. Well, yeah, that's just the truth. I always take hand gel on the trip because if the hygiene goes wrong, you ruin your trip. I've said this so many times. And if you go to altitude, nothing gets better the higher you go. Nothing. So you've just got to make sure you've got the right things. But I'm using hand gel as a catch-all, really. It's first aid kit with all the right things. Things for your feet, most importantly, because that's going to keep you going. Certainly making sure you've got your stuff for your stomach if you're unwell, but actually prevention is the better part of it. So having that preventative stuff is really good.
Yeah.
I will say one thing though. I've noticed is sometimes at altitude, because it's cloudy. Let's say you're at 3,500 meters, you're getting into the sort of high altitude area. Clients don't wear sunglasses or don't want to wear sunglasses, and I have learned myself that it's crucial that you wear them at that altitude because
and wrap around as well,
because of the UV. I'm an old boy, so I'm going to get cataracts one day anyway. But every time I go to the optician, what is it you do? I say, do you wear sunglasses? At what altitude do you start wearing them? Good. And so that's a bit of learning from me, really. That's kept me going. Now, if I think I've been not wearing them at that altitude for all these years, I would have cataracts.
Mine is probably my international travel adapter.
Oh yes.
Like one thing that we all like, it's a common question into the office is, what plug adapter do I need to go to XYZ? If you go and get yourself an international travel adapter, then you can use it wherever you go. So you're not going to need to have 7 different travel adapters. You can just have one, and then it will work wherever you are. And then my other one is my new battery pack. That's why.
Oh yes,
I like my new battery pack, and that's because it charges so quickly. Anyone that's got a battery pack knows that it needs to charge for like 13-14 hours to get a full charge. This one that I've now got charges to full in about an hour and a half.
Well, itself charges itself. Yeah, fantastic.
So it's amazing. What sleeping bag do you recommend for EBC? Dave, do you want to take that one?
Yes. I'll tell you what, I'm a skinny bloke. I feel the cold, unlike Keith, and you don't feel the cold.
I thought you said I'm fat.
No, I'm not saying you're fat. Take it as you will. I have a 3-season sleeping bag. You don't need any more than that. I have a liner that goes inside it. When it's really cold, I don't wear all my clothes inside that sleeping bag. I might have my merino long johns and merino base layer, and if it's and I'll put on a hat if it's freezing cold. But I am as warm as toast in that, and I've tested it over and over and over again. I'm glad I don't carry a heavier sleeping bag or pay for one. I don't need it. A good liner, a good 3-season down sleeping bag, nice and light. And if you are really cold, you just wear your merino base layer and stick a hat on if you need to. You'll be as warm as toast on every space camp at any time, and even colder places than that, actually.
Yeah, perfect. Lindsay Allen has asked, why is the sky blue?
Yes, good question, Lindsay.
Do you know the answer?
I do. It's something to do. Is it reflection of people's hair? Maybe.
Yeah, could be.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well, Lindsay, what do you think about that? Is that a good answer?
And I think actually it's to do with the shorter waves and how much it bounces off. I think is the real answer. But like,
what a guy!
You know, if
scientist as well.
Yeah, try to be. Someone here is asked on Instagram: do many women travel solo with you, and how do you make sure they are safe?
Well, the answer to that is yes, they do. I mentioned earlier about the Sahara. Usually, a large proportion of women on that a large proportion of the clients are, are women. And how do you make sure they're safe? Well, let's start at the very beginning, really. When we go to any country, we always are associated with a highly reputable in-country provider. Now, what that means is that their guides, male or female, but usually largely male, have been through some scrutiny, are recognised as proficient at their job, but also safe people to be with. So that's the very first thing. The second. So if you're going on a bucket list trip, and therefore one of us is not with you, the guides that you'll get will be the guides that we use every time we go on a bucket list plus trip. So that is the base, completely base layer. The second thing is, on the bucket list plus trip, there's always one of us, and our job is to make sure that you are safe, that you're communicated with well, you've got any problems are sorted out, that you don't, and if you choose not to, you don't want to talk to the in-country guides in particular, or raise queries, you can do that through us. So I think there's two layers to it, but the base layer is that we only use reputable guiding companies in the in-country.
Yeah, and I think other things like, you know, obviously a lot of solo travelers come on and they will come on a bucket list plus trip first.
Yeah.
So they have that, you know, knowing that there's a UK guide there. You know, things like in the evenings, like no one ever gets left out and has to go out a meal on their own if they don't want to. You know, that's what we're there for, and we will go out and, you know, we will say we're going to this restaurant tonight. Who wants to join us? So nobody ever feels like they are left on their own. You know, if people are going out and about, we always have a WhatsApp group. And if people are going off for a wander around the market, they generally put in there, I'm going to head off for a walk. Does anyone want to join me? I'll be in reception in half an hour. Like, so it just kind of bonds it in that sense, really. So I don't think there is, you know, anything to worry about. I think, you know, it was really interesting because like last month I was on the gorilla trekking trip in Uganda, and I had 7 clients, I think, who had already done trips with me, and then there was 5 clients who it was their first trip with the bucket list company. And you kind of always worry a little bit because, you know, you're always thinking, is it going to be a bit clicky because we've got existing customers who already know each other. But it literally disappears at the airport. Like, as soon as you get to the airport and everyone starts chatting, you know, everyone is super friendly, and, you know, they've all got one common thing, and that's they want to go traveling and want to go to that destination. So everybody gets on amazingly well. So I think in terms of safety, like Dave said, you know, great guides, you know, from that perspective. But then at the same time, the bucket list plus trip, having that UK guide there with you the whole way through. you know, just getting through the airports. If you've never been to, you know, if you've only ever really done packaged holidays in Europe before, you know, going to Kathmandu or going to Kilimanjaro airport can be a bit daunting. So having somebody to walk you through there, is,
I quite agree. Yeah.
Ellie says hello, Ellie. And Silas said hello as well.
Oh, hello, Silas again.
Candice has asked, how do you look so good? I think she must be talking about you there, Dave.
Yeah, right. Well, just, you know, it's checking.
He's 97.
I'm wearing my sunglasses when it's very shiny.
Yeah, and sun cream.
And sun cream, yeah.
Lots of moisturizer.
I drink sun cream.
Silas said there, the guides are fantastic. I did the Sahara 2 years ago, and the local guide still wish me a happy birthday on Facebook. Yeah, I think that's, you know, that's how it works. And it is, you know, kind of, we know them all so well, and, you know, they want to be part of your trip. And I think the thing that I love about our guides is that they want people to succeed. You know, I've seen so many other local teams that if you're having a bit of a bad day or you say you want to give up, they're kind of like, okay, then let's turn around and go back.
Yeah.
Whereas our guys are like, no, come on, it's still safe for you to carry on. Like, you know, that's, so there it is. Elliot Hill, what jackets would you recommend for Tootcow in October? I don't really ever recommend a brand, because I think brands are very personal to people. In terms of what you really need, obviously a down jacket is great for summit morning, also in the evenings. You want a waterproof that will go over the top of your insulated jacket. It doesn't necessarily have to be down, it could be synthetic or it could be down. And then kind of a lighter weight sort of soft shelly kind of jacket that, you know, as a mid layer almost. You just want to be able to have multiple layers that you can sort of add and take off easily. What you don't want is one super thick jacket that if you take it off you're too cold, but if you're walking with it then you're too hot. So you want to be able to sort of layer up and do it that way. Is Kilimanjaro harder trek than Tootcow, as in the terrain, not the altitude? I think they are about the same in terms of the terrain.
Even coming down, do you think? Maybe longer, but it's still
depends which route you're on.
Yeah, of course it does. Yes.
But in terms of the actual physicalness of the trekking itself, I would say they're quite similar. Obviously, then the altitude plays a big part. Leaving at 1 o'clock in the morning plays a huge part to people rather than 5, 6 o'clock on Tootcow. But if you actually look at the physical trekking, I would say it is fairly similar. In fact, I've had people who have done both who have said that they felt Tootcow towards the top was actually harder than anything that they had to walk across on Kili. So, but I think, you know, it's going to be personal preference, how you feel it at that time or whatever. So, but yeah, I don't think there's a lot of difference. I think obviously the altitude plays a huge difference. And obviously the time you leave plays a massive difference as well. That makes Kilimanjaro harder, but not from a trekking perspective.
Good.
Okay.
Well, we got
there we are. Andrea's just said, I personally found Tootcow a bit more challenging.
Yes, and the last group I taught said the same.
Yeah. So yeah, so Kelly just said she's got a few people who've said the same to me. I'm booked in June for Kilimanjaro. Can't wait. So perfect. You'll be fine. If you've done Tootcow already, then, you know, just
keep going.
Just keep going. And, you know, and as I always say, with Kilimanjaro, you know, the trek up to base camp before you go for the summit, so many people are like, well, I don't know what people talk about. This is super easy. And then summit night hits, and then it goes from there. So just be prepared for that. But yeah, and I think, you know, conditions on Tootcow can be a lot worse,
yeah,
challenging.
definitely, especially early.
Just because you're in a mountain range, rather than it being a standalone mountain, that kind of is more unpredictable there as well. So yeah. Okay then. Well, I don't know if there's any more questions coming in, but we've managed to go over our 30 minutes. And you've got to go climbing, Dave.
I've got things to do.
You've got things to do. Busy man. But there is for those who are watching now, there is a altitude center call at 7:30 where you can dial in and ask any questions about training for altitude, or what the effects of altitude are on your body. So if anyone wants to tune into that call, and we run those calls regularly every month as well. So if you can't make the one tonight at 7:30, then you can get jumped onto the next one. And I'm sure Tom will put a link into the comments where you can sign up for that one if you want. So as there are no more questions, and Dave, you need to head off and do your other things, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll be back next month with another live Q&A session. But until then, thanks very much, and we'll see you later.
Bye. Bye.